والحث على تمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على خير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه ثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية ورحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم لا تسلم علي واشكر الصوفي هني فبيغني. اللهم لا تسلك العلم لدني واشكر الصوفي يرفعني. اللهم نسألك العلم لدني والمشرب الصوفي هني فبيغني. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين. Alright, so we're gonna continue with our book. We are on here. Alright, so last time we took till we spoke about amal a bit. We spoke about hopes, having long hopes. That is one of the diseases of the heart, having long hopes. I mentioned about the hadith about Rasulullah spoke about long hopes. And one of the so Imam Ghazali basically is now going to the 4 major destructive ailments of the heart, right? Diseases of the heart, which are basically long hope, right? Haste, hasad, right? Envy, and kibr, which is arrogance. Right? Of course, he mentioned before. Prior to this, he said that the ailments of the heart are numerous, and to speak about them is lengthy, right? And he said that, and he has done so anyway, right? In his Ihya Ulumuddin, he has already done so, right? So you see, if you want to know more about this, and he says that and you should go and spend time and go and look up in his book Ihya Ulumuddin and go and look into the ailments. The thing about Ihya Ulumuddin, of course, it is 40 books. Right? It's entire corpus stuff. The entire thing that Imam Ghazali did about the heart and the ailments of the heart and the curing of the heart. Like Habib Omar, may Allah preserve him. Right? He has compiled for us, right, all of it into one book, all the matters of the heart, and it's called Qibsun Nurul Mubin. Qibsun Nurul Mubin. Qibsun Nurul Mubin. Right? Basically, it is like a snippet, of a clear light. Right? Which is basically his book, which is basically a summary of all that Imam Ghazali spoke about, right? In his so the Ihya Ulumuddin is broken into 4 portions, right? The first one is about ibadah, second one is about ada, right? So ibadah, worship, ada, day-to-day dealings, and then you have the muhlikat, right? The muhlikat is what destroys a person, right, of diseases, right? Inward spiritual diseases, and you have al-munjiyat. Al-munjiyat is what saves a person, the salvatory virtues of a person, right? So Habib Omar, right, he has taken the 3rd and the 4th section, right, of these 4 sections of the Ihya Ulumuddin, right, and he has made it into one book, right, called Qibsun Nurul Mubin, right? So it is not translated into English, it's in Arabic. I think it is translated into English, but the last time I saw it, the English I'm not sure about Malay lah. Malay, they're very fast in the translation, right? The English is we take time, right? But if I'm not wrong, I saw a translation of it somewhere in Tarim, but it was very expensive, so I can't remember what it's called. But I remember that it was very expensive and it was very thin. So I think it's not even the full, because the book itself that Habib summarized is a thick book, right? The Habanu will do with us in the Zahra every Monday during Nashar. Right, so that is the work she's doing. Qibsun Nurul Mubin. Right, so and Habib does it every Wednesday evening, right, in Darul Mustafa. Which if you want to tune in, you can tune in, but it's all in Arabic lah. Right, everything's in Arabic. So that one is actually a good reference. Right, but it's in Arabic again. It's a good reference because it summarizes, right, all of what Imam Ghazali speaks about the ailments of the heart, right, and the cures of the heart. But here in this book, after he says all that, he says, okay, you know what, we're going to focus on 4, because most people, they're still around these 4. Right? Most human beings are just around this 4, right? And then you're not pulling out of this 4. So better than talking about all the different ailments, we're just going to speak about these 4. right? And last week we were speaking about al-amal, right, which is basically having long hope, right? And he mentions about, right, he spoke about what having long hope causes to happen to a person, right? If you have long hope, like first and foremost, right, you become lazy, right? Because you think you can do it later. Aisyah, water is here. Okay, right, so right, that you might become lazy and you will leave obedience thinking you can do it later, right? And then it also makes you procrastinate your tawbah, saying that, oh, I'll do tawbah later, I'll do tawbah now, because you're having long hopes. I mean, you're convinced that you live for a long time, right? So you're convinced, right? And it also causes you, right, to focus, right, and also to occupy yourself with the collection and the amassment of this world, because you think you'll live for so long, right? So why not amass all this world and have this house and this and that, right, for me to enjoy, because I'm going to live till 60 or 70, right? So I need to amass all these things, right, for me to have an easy retirement, an easy a nice life later on, right? And it is basically thinking that you will live to that age, right? So you don't give out in sedekah, you don't give out your you want to go for Hajj yet, because Hajj will require a lot of money and whatsoever, right? So it's all because of having long hopes, right? Thinking that you can do it later, right? Not now, right? And then we also spoke about the fourth one. It makes the heart hard, right? The heart becomes hard, right? And it makes a person forget the akhirah. I think I did not go into this part, right? Third and fourth I didn't go into, right? I went to 1 and 2, correct? 1 and 2 I went into, and the third and fourth I did not go into. Alright, I'm just going to read through it, right, from number 1 to number 4, right? So for us to remind ourselves, what exactly Imam Ghazali is speaking about. Alright, so he says here, right, from the book Minhaj al-Abidin ila Jannati Rabbil Alamin, right, the path of the worshipful servant to the gardens of the Lord of the worlds, right? Lil Ta'lif Al-Imam Al-Mujaddid Al-Hujjat Al-Islam Wal-Muslimin Zainuddin Abi Hamid Muhammad bin Muhammad bin Ahmad Al-Ghazali Al-Tusi Al-Tabarani Al-Shafi'i radiyallahu anhu wa nafa'ana bihi wa bi'ulumi fi ad-darain ila qal, right, by the great scholar, the Imam, right, the renewer of his faith, right, the proof of Islam and the Muslims, right, the beautification of this religion, the father of Hamid Muhammad bin Muhammad bin Ahmad Al-Ghazali Al-Tusi Al-Tabarani. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him, and may we be benefited by him. May Allah benefit us by him and by his knowledge through what he has said, right? So al-awwalu al-amal, right? أما طول الأمل فإنه العائق عن كل خير وطاعة. Right? As for having long expectation or long hope, right, it is something that it is a handicap, right? It is a handicap on every goodness and every forms of obedience. والجالب لكل شر وفتنة, and it drags you to every form of fitnah, and every form of evil, right? Having long hope or long expectation, you will say that. I mean, I'm always the word hope, because hope, like, it's a good word, nice word. Expectation, I expect, right, to actually live long. So having long expectation. وإنه الداء العضال الذي يوقع الخلق في أنواع البلايات. Right, and it is a disease, right? It is a sickness, it is a virus, right, that causes the creation to fall into a variety of calamities, right? وَعَلَمْ أَنَّكَ إِذَا طَالَ أَمَلُكَ هَاجَ لَكَ مِنْهُ أَرْبَعَةُ أَشْيَاء. Right, and know that if you have high expectation, of life, right? You expect, right? You anticipate, you expect, right, long life. Then know that 4 things will come to you definitely. The first one, أحدها ترك الطاعة والكسل فيها. Right, to leave obedience, and you're going to be lazy in doing obedience, thinking that you have forever to do it. You have later on in your life, when you retire from your work, right? When you right, when you retire from your work in Singapore, if you really want to retire from your work, right? I mean, Seriously, honestly. Right? It's really, when? Really, when? Right? And sometimes I will nag at people, like, some people, they've traveled the world and they've not done Umrah. When? When you want to go Umrah? Right? I mean, if you can go to New Zealand, you can go to the UK, to the US. Okay, those who can't afford it is a different thing. Right? But Umrah, come on. Come on, let's go to Umrah. Right? Just one time. At least go and see Mecca, go to Medina, right? Rather than spend so much money traveling. When you're gonna do your Umrah. I know of people who, like, they make it a habit, like every 4 years go to Umrah, right? So every 5 years, every 6 years. I'm making a habit, like, because we know what happens to us spiritually whenever you go to Umrah. You know what happens, right? When you go to Umrah spiritually, there's a rejuvenation in your heart. You feel, like you reflect on your life. Things happen to you at Umrah. Like, that's not happen to you anywhere else. Right? Because it's a lot of, like, basically you leave the world behind, literally. Right? You leave the world behind and then you go, right, to Umrah. But of course, with babies, all that, like cerita, right? So when they grow up a bit more, right, and you're able to bring them easily or leave them behind, right, with someone who is responsible, right, then to consider lah Umrah, right, and or at least make like a financial goal or mental goal with your husband. When are you going for Hajj? Right, these are all pillars of Islam, right, for us to fulfill. Right, so when are you going to go for Hajj? I remember when I was in university, in my first year, second year university, and when I was earning money by tuition, I asked my mother, like, where should I go? What should I do with my money lah? And she was like, so go for Hajj. Right? If you're earning money through tuition, and basically when you're in university, so you ask days gone by, dah habis. Now it's the different type part of our life now with kids and whatsoever, right? But you see, university is like the best time to go anywhere. Because you have no kids, you're not married, you're like, basically free. University was the best time. Your money is all yours. You don't do anything with your money. If you're earning, or like prior to marriage, you're not doing anything with your money. Right? That's the best time to go places, right? If you want to go. So I remember I asked her, and then she said, go to Hajj lah. And I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, this year the Hajj falls right after my final year exams. If I postpone to next year, it will clash with the final year exams in NUS. If I go following year, even worse, because the Islamic calendar moves up, so it'll be prior to the final year exams. So it's now or never. I was thinking to myself. I was thinking, if I postpone to after I graduate, but when I graduate, I want to go and work. Right? But when I work, it's all like the amal, right? I'm gonna work. I'm gonna go join a company, and I'll take no pay. I'll take leave for some time to go for Hajj or what. I said, okay, now or never. Right? Because otherwise I will work for 10 years, then I want to go for Hajj for, like, when will I go for Hajj? Right? So now or never, go now. Right? You have the time, with the money, go. Right? So I went for Hajj. In my second year university. But I remember that was the mindset, that was what I was thinking. Like, it's already, if I don't do it now, I'll probably do it in my 40s. I was thinking to myself, I was calculating the entire thing. Like, if you work for 10 years, right, if you have children, then you have, like, like this, like the entire, like, you're just thinking on the entire thing. So I'll be about 40 if I go for Hajj, which is more or less around there. Most people go for Hajj around their 40s, right, because their kids are a bit grown. Then you reach the amount that you need, right, and then you go for Hajj, especially for visa, in regards to visa. Right, so I was like, alhamdulillah. And my mother gave me the idea. She said, do it now. So what are you waiting for? Right, so alhamdulillah. Right, my sister also went. In my family, the 4 youngest amongst the seven siblings, the 4 youngest have gone for Hajj. Arif, me, Sarah, Ibrahim. All 4 of us have gone for Hajj. Yeah. You apply, then Bismillah.
Why do they say that there's a long wait to go for Hajj, like 10 years, don't know what?
You plan that year, you got to go that year. That's a bit.
Not even a year. I it just hit me like in February or March, and then Hajj was in, like, I think November or something that year.
I'm still waiting.
Still waiting. For us, we spoke to the agency, and then we just said, because we have relatives in Mecca, right? So you say they just give us the visa, we handle everything else ourselves, right? So for them, they don't have to fit you into their package. You just want the visa. That's all you want.
But you are fit into the quota.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why.
I don't know what happened, but basically, I don't know what happened, but basically,
I
it's
also have been thinking where I'm going to go.
for Hajj. Because Hajj does a lot to you lah. Right, but yeah lah, that's the thing lah. Like, so now you're like thinking when is the Hajj gonna happen But if you're right now, I think it would be good time to apply, because by the time you get into the quota, they will be grown. Your kids, inshallah, will be grown. Right, and it will be hard to actually bring children to Hajj. Trust me, Trust me. Don't even don't even consider. Don't even consider. Right, it's very hard because Arafah, Mina, Muzdalifah, Malam, sleep in the tent. You know, the weather is cold. It's this, it's that. Don't even
Do parents bring?
Huh?
Are there people who bring?
I think there are people who have no choice, right? Older kids maybe they can tahan, right? But I think below the age of 7 it'll be very hard because it's very cranky, hungry. Hajj is not like Umrah. Umrah is a few hours situation. You go tawaf, you go sa'i, you're done. Right? Hajj is a few days, spends over a few days, and it's hardship. I mean, you actually, you're in tents, sleeping out in tents, and the weather can get very cold, right? So and then you do walk, right, from place to place, everything, or you're in the bus, you're in a jam, right, for how many hours or that. So highly not recommended, right, for you, especially if you want to actually go there to get spiritually, focusing right, on your ibadah and everything. Like, you're gonna be very, very distracted lah, right? If all their hal. Right, so inshallah, make dua. But basically what you do now is that you just say to Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, right? As soon as, I mean, it's gonna be in your mental note. Right? The moment I can, I go. Right? The moment I can, I go. Instead of Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala that. Right? I'm not. That means you don't say I'm procrastinating it. I'm not procrastinating it. Right? But it's just that it's in my mind. The moment I can, I will go. Right? Whatever. So if Allah has arranged for you, right, and make everything easy for you, and the window is open, the door is open, go. Right? Just make a pledge to Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. For there is a hadith that whosoever dies not having performed Hajj, right, while he's able to, then let him die as a Jew or a Christian. Strong hadith, And what is for people who actually did not even bother. They didn't even bother trying, right? They didn't put a deadline, a financial plan. Like by this age, maybe our kids will be this old and whatsoever. Right? How many kids do you want to have? And then you're doing your plans lah. Right? It is not kutul amal. It's basically you're planning your ibadah. Right? So you say, okay, around this age, okay, this year we're gonna aim for this year. Right? Inshallah, if the window opens up for us, right, we will make dua for Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Right? Let him open up for us the opportunity. We will go. Right? Because it is a rukun. It is a rukun. Right? You want to really just, I mean, it's gonna be on your mind the entire time. Alright. So the first one, right, tarku ta'ati wal kaslu fiha, to leave obedience and to be lazy on it. Right? What people actually will be most lazy on, right, especially in this like in their youth. I'm speaking about the youth because tulul amal means that you expect yourself to live longer, right? And there's a story, quite a funny story lah. But not a funny story actually. Related of it. There was an old, there was a king. I remember who he was. One of the khalifas, right, of the Islamic Empire. Right, he was asking for anyone who know anything or any hadith that they have heard from anyone. Right, so one day comes this old woman, right, and this king, if anyone knows anything, said by Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he would pay, right, the person an amount of money, right, and then so this old woman came and said that, and said to him that, oh, I know something that I heard from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right. So the king said, okay, what have you heard? Right, and she said that I heard that he said, and Allah Alam about the authenticity of the hadith, but it was a story that happened, right? And she said that Rasulullah said that as a person grows older, everything about him grows weaker except for two things: his hope and his desire for money. Right, everything grows weaker except for two things: his hope to live a longer life, and this woman was a very old woman, right? And the desire for money. Right, so the king was pleased with the hadith, right? And the king gave her a bag of golden coins, right? And then she was walking away, right? And then she turned back and she said, oh, and I know another hadith. And she made up another hadith, and then she made it up, right? And then the king said, Sadaqah Rasulullah. And I was right, you're so old and you want I mean, it's true, you're just thinking more of money, you're thinking that you live for so long, that you need more, and because king gave her a lot of money, but she was more. Right?
So the first one was a true hadith.
Allahu A'lam whether it was true. Right, but it's a story lah. But Allahu A'lam whether it was true. I don't know whether it's a authentic hadith or not. But she narrated it. This old lady. Allahu A'lam. I'm not saying it's true. But basically, if Rasulullah said it, of course it's true, right? Because two things get stronger in an old person, and that's why you see old people.
Yeah.
So some of them, they would, they're so old, right? But they would go through. I don't know, it's just Allahu A'lam, people can do whatever they want to do. But I wonder, why would they go through procedure after procedure after procedure after procedure to lengthen your life to what? To what? And sometimes in the 80s, in the 90s, and they're doing all kinds of procedures in the hospital to lengthen your life to what? How much? How many more years? Right. So my grandmother, when she was really going through diabetes, she was like, I don't want to have any more injections and any more all this, whatever that you all put into me. I'm already, that time she was in the 80s. I'm already in my 80s. Right, just let my body die. Right, you want to keep pumping me with all these things. To what age? Right, to what age do you want to try to keep me alive? And for what? What am I doing every day just lying in my bed? Right, so some of them, like my grandfather, same thing also. When he was going through his dialysis, he's like, and they tried to, he was going in and out. They tried to resuscitate him to keep him alive, and he's like, let me rest. Stop it. I just want to rest. Let me rest. I want to go. Right? Stop trying to keep me alive. Because for them, they've done it. They've done their life. Right? They have finished their responsibilities. Right? Their kids are all grown. What do you want me to do now? And all I am is I'm sitting in your house every day, waiting for death to come. Let death come. But subhanallah, you don't wonder, so in a sense, you can put it into your will. You can. It's up to you. Right? I'm not saying you must. You must want to die. Right? But you can put it in your will. If I am, brain dead, if I am in a terminal illness, whatsoever, don't waste money on me. Stop sending me for procedure after procedure. If I'm after my 80s, let me die a natural death. But that's what happens to human beings. Our bodies, our organs, after a while fail. Naturally, it happens to everybody. Right? So why are you trying to prolong it to when? You can't prolong it any much further anyway. Right? But tulal amal it's under tulal amal. And you're wondering you only live for what? Also, what are you looking for? Right? But for this one, I'm talking about those who are young. Right? Tulal amal. Right? That you think that people think that they will live to whatever age that they think they're going to live to. Right, so and one of the signs of tulal amal is not having a will written. Right, that is one of the strongest signs of having long expectation. You don't have a will. Right, Rasul says that a believer does not go 2 nights without a will written. Right, what is this will? A will is basically wasiat. Right, so not just money. Right, as I mentioned before, right, care of your children. Right, advice to your family, advice to your children, advice to your spouse, advice. All of these things falls under will. Right, also how you would like your jasad, your body to be handled. If you want to actually choose someone to wash you, to shroud you, to pray over you. Right, if you would like so and so, you want your husband to be the imam, to pray over you whatsoever. It's up to you. Whosoever you would like whatever you like for your janazah. and the entire janazah lah. Like you want to feed the people who come and read Yasins for me, or read Quran for me. I want to use part of my inheritance. You can put it all into your will. Part of my inheritance to be used, right, to feed the people who come. Right, it means, so you say to your family that's left behind, right, please, right, just make a kenduri like in a way, right, under my name, right, my money under my name. Right, so it's all somewhere in your wasiat. It's all in your wasiat. What do you want? And your family to do a khatam of the Quran, put it in your will. Right, so that they will take it seriously. You do a khatam for so and so. If your family doesn't have the habit of doing so, right, some families have the habit of doing khatams. Right, so I know of people that they ask for 3 khatams, right, in their will. Right, I mean not to be heavy on the family, but it's request. Eventually do 3 khatams for me. Right, and then how much zakat, if you owe zakat, put down. If you have any debts, if you have any utang puasa, all of these things should be all in your will. Right? Because if you die and no one knows that you actually have debts, right? You actually have fastings you have not paid back for like don't know how many years, because like you give birth and you breastfeed and you give birth and you breastfeed, and you're like having like a entire like qada of puasa of since don't know when, and you tell your family. Right. They can possibly there are few shurut about it. They can possibly for you, and they pay fidya also, depending on why you actually left the fasting. Right? Depending on why you left the fasting. Right? So it actually really depends.
And then, but solat cannot, right?
Solat by right, no. Right? But then there are those who do. Right? They are request from their family to qada prayers for them. There are those who do. Right? Okay. Alright, so all under tul amal, right? So sawfa af'al, right? So taqul sawfa af'al, you will say I will do it, I will do it, I will do it, I will do it. Right? So I will do my sunnah prayers, when I'm older, I have more time. I'll do my witir, I'll do my duha, I'll do my, it's all, I will, right? It's all to the amal. Wal ayyamu bayna yaday, the days are before me, right? I'm control of my days. Wala tafutuni zalik. Right, nothing will miss me. Right, I will not miss anything. I have days ahead. I can do all my ibadah in my later years. ولقد صدق داوود الطائي رحمه الله حيث قال من خاف الوعيد قرب عليه البعيد ومن طال أمله ساء عمله. Right, and Dawood at-Ta'i said, I mentioned this last week, so we're just doing revision. Whoever fears the threats of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is far seems near. Right, far meaning death. Right, far meaning death. If you had studied Rudu Sibyan, right, the poem on parenting, right, Rudu Sibyan educating children, the poem on parenting, right, at the end of the poem, he actually mentions this. Right, that at the end of the day, you have to understand, and when it comes to parenting, you are parenting your children to prepare for death. Right, you have to understand that is what you're parenting them for. You're not parenting them for their dunyawi future. Right, while that is also there, that you try to prepare them for their future in this dunya, right, but primarily your parenting of them is their akhirah. Right, you're trying to prepare them, right, for their death. Right, so when some people say that my parents never told me this, never told me that, right, so I focus my entire life, not learning all fardu ain and not learning the laws of my religion, not learning a lot of things, right, because the parents were not preparing them to die, right? So the parents need to prepare. So subhanallah, the Sibyan, right, it is said that the moment the child reaches puberty, right, you sit the child down. So because basically the parenting, the major parenting happens from the age of 2 to the age of puberty. And because in Islam, after puberty, you're held to account, right? So you must be ready by puberty, by right. That day someone was saying to me that but we learn all of these things when we are like in our 20s, right? And then I was like, by right, you should have learned all of these things when you were 9. Right? I mean, that is by right. By in Islamic tradition, all of the knowledge of Islam should be learned by 9. And knowledge meaning your aqidah, your fiqh, your tasawwuf, right? The inward, diseases of the heart, right? Knowing how to tawbah, knowing how to have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing how to have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Knowing that envy is terrible, knowing that gossiping, backbiting is all terrible. Because they were saying that, why when we were young, We used to gossip a lot when we were young. We used to have all these diseases. We used to hate people. We used to backbite. We used to this to that. And no one told us it's haram. So, and since you puberty, that's like the whole of secondary school life. And secondary school life is like the place whereby you you gossip your friends, and you talk bad about other people, and then you don't like other people, and like a lot of like things go on in secondary school, in JC, and like whatsoever. Right, so Ruqayyah, you're spared of all of that. Clean slate. And for us, like, we have this entire backlog of like, what did I do in my... Because like especially in this kind of things, you harm other people, and you have to ask them for their forgiveness. Because it's not even like something that you can tawad to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah wipes it up for you. Right? You're like, other people, you actually gossip. Your teachers, teachers, your cikgus. Your cikgus are all Muslims, right? Yeah, all the cikgus that you spoke about. And all the cikgu, like, they talk about cikgus a lot. So, cikgu. Right, so subhanAllah, like, that is since you were 12. The pen has been writing. SubhanAllah. So this is what it is. Like parents, Sibyan, says this: the moment they reach puberty, you sit them down and you teach them about the severity of the matter. I mean, because and in fact they have been brought up from the time they were 2 to 12 to understand the religion. So at 12, when you tell them the severity of the matter, right, then they will know, right, that from now on, right, and in fact there was a story of someone in Tarim, whereby this man, right, when his son reached puberty, he gathered all the male family members of the family, right, to the house, right, the uncles, the grandfathers, and whatsoever, right, and he said to them, like, he announced to them that today, right, my son has reached puberty, right, and he was holding his kin. He had like a kin, right, and he said, then today, right, I put down my stick, right, because the pens of the angels have been lifted against my son, so I don't need my stick anymore. Right, my son knows that the pens of the angels are more severe, right, on him than my stick. That means the angels are writing, right, and then the son begins to cry, and the son says, if only it was my father's stick and not the pens of the angels. Right, at the point of puberty, understanding and deep understanding, right, that what it means by the angels on your shoulders, right, whatever you do is written right, against you. So at this, it says, at the point of puberty, you actually tell them that the reality of death. You tell them that this entire world, right, the last part of the CBI, I think it should be like printed out, right, made it big into a poster, right, and then there's like a frame in the house. The last part of the CBI, right, about training children, right, because it basically lays the entire foundation of life. And it's what you tell them the moment they reach puberty. You tell them this, right? This entire world, right? Understand, the entire world is just you gathering bekalan, basically, gathering things, right, for you to last you to the hereafter. That's it, right? So whatever you're gonna pick up in this world, you're going to see. Is this going to benefit you on the day you stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is it going to drag you down? Or are they going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And then tell them that the only thing promised to them in this entire existence, in this world, is death. That's the only thing promised to you, and it's the closest thing to you than anything else. And marriage is not promised to you, kids are not promised to you, life is not promised to you, even your iman is not promised to you. Right? Nothing is promised to you except death. Right? That is the only thing promised to you. So work, right, with this understanding. And subhanAllah, later you all buka your recipian, you turn the last part and you read it again. And you see how profound the Shaykh, right, says this is the speech you give to your children. Of course, it will hit you also, hit you very hard, right? And then every now and then, with every child who goes into puberty, you repeat the speech, right? And then, so therefore, from this day onwards, on you your own prayer, on you your own fasting, on you your own truth and your lies. If you want to lie, on you, right? Because the angels are on you. It's you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have taught you. Right? So, I mean, and when you do that, the child actually wakes up. Right? Because he's not doing it for you anymore. Right? Don't make him do it for you. Because for you means if you're not there, he's going to do it. Right? If a child does it because of you, so if you are absent, he's out with his friends, right? What's stopping him? But if he's doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? If you're absent, doesn't matter. Right? Because he's doing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I mentioned before that my mother never checked our prayers. She never checked it. Right? Because especially when we reach puberty, she never checked it. Right? Because she already told us, prayer is wajib. Pray. Right? If you don't pray, then you talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? You go and answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? You don't have to answer to me. I'm not the one who's going to question you on the day of judgment. Allah will question you. Right? So whether she's there or she's not there, we're in school. Right? She has no clue, that we will pack our own telekong and we'll go to school and find our own place to pray and bring our own compass and figure out how to pray. Right? Since Sec 1, Sec 2, Sec 3, and we'll do it. And without her knowing anything of what we are doing, because basically she put it in us. We're not doing it for her at all. So she has no need to come and say, oh, I prayed Zuhur. Right? Don't have to report. Right? She won't even ask. You got understood you're a Muslim when you're an adult. Under Islam, puberty means you're an adult. You should figure it out yourself.
What if your child don't do it?
Huh?
What if you find out your child don't do it? Or they're doing
If you find out that they're not doing what they're supposed to do and they have reached puberty already,
Yeah.
right? Then of course you can sit them down, right? And again, don't ever make it sound it's for you. Don't. Right? Because you're not everywhere. Right? So if you find you're not praying in school, they're skipping their prayers, right? You can sit them down as a Muslim to another Muslim. A Muslim that if you like one of your friends not praying, or your cousins not praying, or so like a Muslim to another Muslim, right? So that you know the compulsion of prayer, and you know what happens to those who don't pray, right? You know that all of these things that thereafter you still have to qada eventually, and you know the severity of leaving the prayer, right? And you know how it will be on the day of judgment. And you know all of these things. I don't have to say anything further, right? So if you're not praying, you must ask yourself why. Do you believe you will stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment? And when you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what are you going to say to Allah? I have CCA, right? What are you going to say? I have Remedia. What are you going to say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say that, well, there are staircases. Well, there's behind, I always play behind squash court. Right, there's squash court there. Right, there are people in your school who pray. Right? 5 minutes, you can give me 5 minutes. Like, I mean, like in a way, you treat them like adults. You treat them like adults. You tell me what you're gonna say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's not doing for me. For me, I pray my Zuhur. I pray my Asar. Right? This will be with you in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you choose to still not pray, then answer to Allah. Basically, I mean, as parents, when you reach puberty, if you have taught them from 2, I'm talking about those who have taught your kids from young. If, like, as for example, there are parents who neglect all the way to 12, 13, didn't take anything, right? Then, when I mentioned University, you must qada. Right? Those years of neglect must be qada thereafter. Right? So that now you have young kids, alhamdulillah, start now. Right? So, but those who actually neglected their kids at 12 and you find your kids not praying, that means you neglected for 12 years. And you must qada the 12 years of teaching thereafter. So that means you still must nag and you still must chase and you still must, whatsoever, because, you neglected the hadith of Rasulullah SAW. They start at the age of 7, right? By the age of 9, they should be doing it. Right? That is the hadith of Rasulullah SAW. Right? So it is for those who have been doing it for years, till they're 9, 10, and most kids reach puberty around 11 for girls, and then for boys around 13. Right? So that's a good 13 years. Right? Has he not understood at this point? If he still has not understood at this point, then there's nothing you can do or say to him to make him pray. There's nothing you can do. He's in school the entire time. What are you going to do? You can't force him or call him or nag him. And if you try to do that, he might just lie. Yes, I prayed. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just basic education. And then you just dua for them to just get realization. Right? Maybe one day the iman will come in. Maybe one day it will strike them, it will hit them. Right? The fear will come into them. Right? One day. But you understand that there's nothing you can do. If they refuse to pray as a teenager, after 10, 12 years of teaching them, nothing you can do is going to force them to pray. Scary, like a scary thought. But it's true. It's true.
Neglected.
Yeah. So if someone has been, it's same thing also. So if a parent has been neglecting teaching them to pray until they're 12, 13, and now want to start to force them to pray, oh, that is even harder. But that one is worse because that one the fault falls on the parent, on them and on the parent, because you did nothing to train them on it. And what you can do at this point is try to send them more classes, or you teach them and you try to slowly build up, right, the taqwa, the iman and whatsoever. Maybe they will come to some realization and they will begin to pray, and then they have to qada whatever they missed out, right, prior to that, right? But of course, I mean, that's why lah, the recipient is like, the parenting starts from while before you even get pregnant, before you even get married. Right, they start the bringing up of children from before marriage. And just because you prepare yourself, then you choose the correct father, not even the correct husband. You're choosing a father for your children. So you look, is this the father that I want? The father that I want. Right? You're not looking for a husband for yourself. It's more important, right, that he's a good father to your children than he's a good husband to you. It's actually more important. People don't understand that. So for some women, they don't click with their husband that they are matchmade to, but they see he's a good father. Right? He teaches them the Quran. He's an imam in the house. He prays on time. He's respected by their children. They love him and everything. You don't click. Like for them, like, what do you want? What is it that you want? I said Anissa Tamara, she was mentioning that people need to see that marriage is not about love. It's actually not about love. Marriage, I mean, sad to say lah, but I mean, really it is. It's not about what they say out there. It's not about love. If love is there, that's great, right? That's great. But marriage is basically two people working together to bring up the next generation. That's what marriage is. So when you see it that way, right, your one priority in the marriage is what? The next generation. That's your one priority. So you control yourself, you keep things behind closed doors when you and your husband, and you don't show it to your children, because the one thing you want to preserve is their innocence, right? Their upbringing, right? The education, their spiritual well-being, their physical well-being, right? All of these things you will prioritize over yourself, over your heartache or your whatsoever that you're going through. And in fact you try to be stronger and just push it aside, right? For the sake of something, a stable environment, right? For them to actually grow up in, right? Well, the shaitan, shaitan loves it, right? When there's fights in the house, he loves it. Of course, easy target. These small kids are all easy target. For him to come in and whisper and this and that, because of the turbulence that's going on. He loves it. Right, so I mean, what I thought she was saying was was profound lah. I understand that it's basically two people working together to bring up the next generation. Right, it's not love. Right, it's basically you have come together to I mean under an agreement to bring up the next generation of human beings, or Muslims lah, of Muslims. Right. Alhamdulillah. Right. It's your responsibility, religion, character. Right. So you see his religion. First and foremost, his religion. Right. Does he pray? Right. Does he I mean, basically all the wajib has to be there. Right. And then thereafter, if you want a bit more, for me, wajib it is enough. Right. But if you want a bit more, right, you see whether he does his sunnahs, he goes for classes. Actually, for me, I think classes is one of the most important things. Going for classes, because classes really keeps a person on track, right, towards Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Any class, right, as long as they have some teacher in their life, like some ustad, some sheikh, even if it's online, somebody they are listening to. So because without classes, you mentioned before, like if you go for 3 days without classes, your heart begins to harden, right, and you begin to stray, right, and you begin to get drowned and engulfed in this dunya. You will. And so teachers, like Mashaykh, Habaib, all that, they pull you, right, and they bring you into a realization, right, once a week, right, you wake up once a week, it's like a full, after going through an entire week of monotonous things, and when you come to a class, you're like, I mean, like, it hits you very hard. And so for me, like, for them to go to any class, it doesn't matter who, as long as the ustad is proper ustad lah. I don't like he go to like some sort of like extreme view or whatever, no lah. right? Proper, but he goes to a masjid, something. Even online, if he listens to like Sheikh Hamzah, whoever online, something. He has to be doing something to feed his soul, right? Because that will be a constant reminder to him, right? On responsibility to his family and to his wife. That is one, right? And then character, right? Good character. Right? So good character. Basically, for me, I ask my husband straight out, "What do you do when you're angry?" I don't even ask, "Do you get angry?" I just say, "What do you do when you get angry?" Because you just say, you get angry, right? So what do you do when you get angry? Tell me, right? Like what is your response when you get angry? And true enough, in his answer to me, he said that I keep quiet or I leave the house, right? And true enough, he does that every single time. He was angry, he keeps quiet, he leaves the house. And then he's still of handling anger. And I still respond to him. I still put a question: what do you expect me to do when you're angry? And what do you want of me? Leave me alone. Okay? And that's been working. 7 years, been working. Right? Leave him alone. Don't even try to SMS. Don't even try to do anything. Just keep quiet. And it works. So like in a sense, so you just ask them about anger, and you ask specific questions that will reveal their character. Your views on whatever lah, your parents, my parents, and what are your views on that? Your views on my parents living with us. What are your views on honesty, frankly, right? And this actually, I find these questions best, especially if he has no he has no romantic interest in you, nor you in him. But he's not trying to impress you, and nor are you trying to impress him. Right? So the answers are very factual. This is who I am. Right? You want it or you don't want it. Khalas. Because there's no romantic, motive to try and impress the other. You understand what I'm saying? Right. So that is actually the best, because then you see them raw and what they are. Right? So if you say no, I don't want your parents to be with us, then you know, okay? Right? Then for you there's a major, red mark. Nope. Don't know it. And for you lah, I mean, if you're thinking about your parents and everything, it's all major questions. Right? Major questions. So I feel that in Islam, there's a lot of barakah and a lot of wisdom, right, in getting to know without any romantic attachment, right? Because you're not clouded, and you can walk away anytime, right? Because you're not clouded, in your judgment. And Faiza, all of us done that, we're all done. So you can choose properly. Make sure you're just gonna, and don't be afraid to walk away. And don't be afraid to walk away. If you see a red mark, walk away. Just walk away. Alright. Masana Muhammad. Okay, next one. وقال يحيى بن معاذ الرازي, so all we have mentioned before, رحمه الله تعالى: الأمل قاطع عن كل خير والطمع مانع عن كل حق والصبر صائر إلى كل ظفر والنفس داعية إلى كل شر. Right? And he says, and Yahya bin Mu'az said, Al-Razi said, having high hopes or having expectation, right, it cuts you off from every goodness. Every goodness meaning your ibadah. And when they say goodness, they mean ibadah, one thing, ibadah. Right? Having high, expectation, right? So, and especially goodness when it comes to sedekah, right? Sunnah prayers, all of these things, right? And then our tama'u, and covetousness, or basically tama' in Malay language, to be greedy, like covetous, it stops you from every good and from every truth. It stops you from the truth. Right? وَالصَّبْرُ صَائِرٌ إِلَى كُلِّ ظَفْرٍ, right? And to be patient, right? It is صَائِرٌ إِلَى كُلِّ what did I say? Yeah. No, what did I translate as last week? You weren't here? وَالصَّبْرُ صَائِرٌ إِلَى كُلِّ ظَفْرٍ. It gives you every victory, right? It gives you every zafrin, meaning it allows you to hold on, right, to good things. And nafsu da'iyatun ila kulli sharrin, and your lower self calls you to every evil. Asani wa tarku tawbati wa taswifuha. Right, so the second thing is that you will leave taubat, right, and you will procrastinate taubat, right. Taqulu sawfa atubu, وفي الأيام سعة وأنا شاب وسني قليل والتوبة بين يدي وأنا قادر عليها متى رمتها وربما اغتاله الحمام على إصرار فاختطفه الأجل قبل إصلاح العمل. Right, so and now he will procrastinate his tawbah. Right, basically when we speak about tawbah, we speak about 3 types of tawbah. We have tawbah of major sins, right? Tawbah of basically daily sins. I have major sins, you have daily sins, and you have tawbah of neglect, like of like for example sunnah and doing this makruh, right? So major sins, for example, of course the worst major sin is shirk, right? Then you have like sihr, you have abandoning of parents, you have murder, you have alcohol drinking, fornication. These are all of the leaving the prayer, right? You have even riba, right? Backbiting. It all falls under major sins. Right? So tawbah of the major sins is basically, right, you when you tawbah of major sins, you intend never to go back to it ever again in your life. And that means you're not going to lapse, you're not going to go back to it, and in your sincerity of it, you must leave any person. It means distance yourself from any person or any place in which you commit the sins. Right? That is from the sincerity of your tawbah. The second one, yeah, like your own family kan. Right? Then you need to make a conviction in yourself that if they begin to backbite, I will stand up and I will leave the room. Right? Just do that. I will stand up and if they would ask you where you're going, then just say that I have things to do. But of course, you can say if you know it's not gonna cause a backlash. Right? But of course people can actually they can sense, right, that they know that you're doing it because of you're talking about other people. Right? The second one is a day-to-day tawbat, right, which is basically day-to-day sinning, right, which is basically to daydream in your prayer, right, to basically like shortcomings that you have throughout the day, any form of like wrong tone with your parents or your spouse, right, any form of like whatever that you might do that is slips that happen to you in a day, and everybody has that, right? That is day-to-day tawbat. Right, that, right, of course you try to improve yourself, right, but it's not to say that you will leave it completely, because when you talk about like for example lapse in your prayer, you're praying and then you daydream, then after you pray astaghfirullah you taubat kan, right, and then the next prayer same thing happens again, next prayer same thing happens again, right? So that one is different from major sin taubat, right? That one is you are going to try every prayer not to do it, right? But every prayer you will taubat from it. Right, so it does not show that you are not sincere, right? It just shows that you are weak lah. Right? Basically, you're a human being, you're weak. Right? But it is a taubat that inshallah Allah subhanahu will accept. And whenever you taubat this, you just say to yourself, I'll try better next time, I'll try harder next time, that kind of thing. Right? But it's not like it will be hard for you to like, oh, I've left it forever. I've left daydreaming my prayer forever. Right? It's very hard lah. It's not like a blatant, blatant sin on its own that you can actually avoid altogether, right? Like for example murder, for example, or someone drinking alcohol, then you can avoid altogether, right? But like wrong tone of voice, you raise your voice against your parents, you show like rudeness or whatsoever, these are sins that happen to you day to day, right? But you can taubat and you might do it again. Right? So that's why your daily istighfar is about these things. Your daily istighfar, right? So or like wasting of time, or like watching stuff on TV and then haram things come on, that kind of thing like or you walk outside and you see like aurat everywhere or whatsoever. So these kind of things like you're trying to avoid it, right? But it happens every day. Right? If you go out in Singapore, definitely you will see people's aurat, right? So it happens every day. So there's a daily taubat, daily istighfar for it. The last one is taubat from neglecting sunnahs, right? Or doing things that are makruh, right? So while these things are not sinful, right, but they are a form of taubat, right? Because like just to better yourself, right? Because neglecting sunnah shows that you're not really serious about following Rasulullah SAW, right? And doing what is makruh is that you don't really bother what he dislikes, so Rasulullah dislikes, right? So it does show like a not very good adab lah, right, towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So there's a taubat on there, and when it comes to your adab with Rasulullah sallallahu and your love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alright, but of course, if you think that you'll live long, then the taubat becomes slow, right? You neglect taubat, or you procrastinate taubat, right? And you say that I have my days are long and I'm still young, and I'm still I'm still I'm only how many years old, and taubat I can taubat anytime. I'm able to taubat any single time I want to, right? So these are all the words people will say to themselves, right? That's why I think I was mentioning last week the book, right, about the if I should speak, right? It's about there was a girl, like there was a character in the book who was basically there was a state, right? Whereby she would say, in the future lah, for now I want to model, I want to sing, I want to I'm good at this, I'm good, and then I'm celebrated, and then she knows what's right, about the religion, but she was basically procrastinating, right? Because she's saying maybe now I'm young, I'm 18, I'm 19, I'm the top of the list in singing and modeling, right? So when I'm older, right, I'll mellow down and I'll get married and I'll figure it out. Right, and I'll get back there, and I'll get back to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Right, but this is basically called, right, tulal amal, and having long expectation in life, which nobody promised you. Right. Tulal amal. Tulal amal. No, alif lam. I'm doing the alif lam. Tul al amal. So I said tulul amal. I'm going into the alif lam. Alright? Okay. Wow, revision took up the entire class. But revision is important lah. Revision is important because for us to sink better in.
Now we learn new things in
in the revision.
revision is like going through it.
Yeah, going through again. This is what you can go through a few times, right? To really get it into you, right? To understand. So you see the ulama, mashallah, the way they are. Because they are walking Minhaj al-Abidin. They are walking it, they're living it. So if you imagine a human being who's a walking, living Minhaj al-Abidin, what kind of human being is that? Subhanallah. And for them, it's like the minimum you should be. MashaAllah. Alright, so we'll stop there. Alhamdulillah. Sorry for the delay. Hope you're not waiting for too long. You okay we operate here, right? Because 1:30 I was out here. Then I saw there was nobody here. Then I saw Faiza, I saw Sarah, and I was like, okay, I'm going to rest for a while. Right. We had excursion this morning. Right. We can stop there. Inshallah, next week we'll continue from As-Salisu. Right. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Fatiha ala rasulina wa mannafi wa al-Musta'alim. ودلالة على الهدى وسورة قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم وإلى الأرواح والعالمين من شيخنا ونسأل الحق علينا وإلى حضر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Ramadan, all the classes like last year, all my morning classes will be converted into Qasasul Haqq, stories from the Quran. All of my morning classes. So I have three. Yes, it's a morning class. I mean, basically class is not after Maghrib lah, because after Maghrib I have to stop lah because of Tarawih. Right, basically my morning class is Tuesdays, Thursdays and Fridays. The Monday one, the Arabic one. Oh yeah, I got every class Everyone continue course Quran. Basically Ramadan we focus on Quran. Right, so all the non-Quran classes will be converted into Quran classes. So the Friday one will stay as it is. It's still Quran. Right, so which is Tuesday and Thursday. Right, will be Qasasul Haqq, right, which is basically tafsir, right, on the stories in the Quran. Where Habib Omar is from Habib Omar. Where Habib Omar goes through the different stories in the Quran and it pulls out for us like in MashaAllah lessons right, from every stories. It's the same time as this one. 1:30. 1:30. Yeah. to 3. Right, so Ramadan still continue lah. Right, it will all be online, and the last year's ones are all online also. So we are at, I think we are at the Bani Israel story. Yeah, because Habib will begin from the beginning of the Quran stories, just the stories, so not the other verses, just the stories of the Quran.
We only at Nabi Adam story.
Maybe Nabi Adam lah yang masuk into.
We haven't gone into
Oh,
Nabi
is it?
Musa.
No, we went to Bani Israel.
We went in.
He did.
Okay, before Ramadan, we need to listen to all of them to revive.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, it will be these stories lah. Right. So it's important lah, because all of the stories in the Quran, Allah Subhanahu mentions them. Right. They are all for life. Right. All for life. Right. Especially when we went to Nabi Yusuf kan. Nabi Yusuf is, if you notice his entire story, very few like miracles mentioned. Right. Like there was one miracle that was mentioned about him casting his shirt on his father's eyes. Father could see. That was the only miracle. The whole story is a story of human beings. Human beings with their jealousies, human beings with their seduction, right? Human beings with like it's the entire story is the story of life. Nabi Yusuf, you and how you interact with other human beings. Right? So, mashallah, I'm really actually keen, when Habib goes into Nabi Yusuf's story, to actually how he analyzes the entire story of Nabi Yusuf. But right now he is a Bani. We're going to go into Bani Israel, inshallah. Right, for Mr. Sulhab. Okay, do you want to revision Mr. Sulhab? Sunday?
How's
Sunday? Oh yeah, I got no mujahideen.
How are you doing my Sunday class that we made in Hanis? Because it ends at 7. Pushing it further up.
Okay, I will think about it. I'll think about it. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammadin wa alihi wasallam. Wal asr. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.